Hi everybody, Joe Fleenor here with Above the Fold, and I am so excited to announce our brand new Above the Fold headliners. This is going to be a series of interviews and discussions we're going to be sharing with each of you with the most influential people in the triathlon industry. We welcome you to take part and check it out. Thank you. On today's episode of our brand new series, Above the Fold Headliners, we have the privilege to speak with 9 of the top triathlon clubs across Tennessee, Kentucky, and Ohio. We spoke with them on everything ranging from how they're engaging their membership to, once they start racing again, how comfortable will they be with the unknown of COVID-19. We hope you enjoy. Check it out. All right, welcome everybody. This is Joe Fleenor with Above the Fold Events and Sport Promotions. Here with a bunch of my friends from across 3 different states, really. This is really cool, but this is the first of what we hope will be many of a new series of these types of interviews and discussions that we're calling the Above the Fold Headliners. And to me, there's no bigger headliner than the actual racers and leadership within the triathlon communities with the respective triathlon clubs we have around town. And I've collected a wide range of triathlon clubs from the markets that we service. So these are the biggest and best triathlon clubs in Tennessee, Kentucky, and even into Ohio, which is really, really cool. So before we kind of dive into it, I want to go around the room here, let everybody introduce themselves, and I'm going to go in an order of alphabetical order by club. So we're going to start with Beat. Emmy, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yes, I'm Emmy Dagnan with the Brentwood Endurance Athletic Club, or team. And a little bit about us, we do sponsor the Nolensville Kids Tri, so that's one big thing.
Great. That's an amazing kids race here in the Nashville area. All right, Cincinnati Tri Club. Jamie.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. It's afternoon where I am. I'm from Cincinnati Triathlon Club. We are one of the largest in Ohio right now. In the surrounding area, tri-state area, most of our club members are all the way around Ohio and some in northern Kentucky. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. All right, Clarksville Tri Club. Michael.
Hey guys, my name's Michael Kreisel from the Clarksville Triathlon Club. We're a small club, really only in our second full season, really. We have about go out, sorry. Cool thing about us is that we actually work with the other sports clubs in the town and formulate training around that.
Very cool. All right, East Nashville Tri Club. Spencer.
Good afternoon. Spencer Sharp, representing East Nashville Triathlon Club. We have 161 members. Obviously, we're based out of East Nashville. And I think that's it, yeah.
Very good. Thank you. Hendersonville Endurance Athletic Team. Greg.
I'm Greg Clark. As Joe said, Hendersonville Endurance Athletic Team, and we also sponsor a kids triathlon. We're in Hendersonville, Tennessee.
Great, thank you. Louisville Land Sharks. Heidi.
Hey, this is Heidi Holtzman. I'm a member of the Louisville Land Sharks. We're just shy of 300 members, and we have members and serve kind of the Kentuckiana area, so Indiana and Kentucky.
Very good, thank you. Memphis Thunder. Greg.
Hi, I'm Greg Luttrell with Memphis Thunder, and we have about 100 members, and we do a Cycle for Safety fundraiser to put up like safe cycling signs around the city and, well, the tri-state area here. And then we also do a kids tri as well.
Very good, thank you. Mid-Tim Multisport. Katie.
Hi, we're Mid-10 Multisport, and like the name says, we're the Middle Tennessee area. We've got about 100 members, and we service the Rutherford County, greater Middle Tennessee area.
Great, thank you. And last but definitely not least, Tri Loco with Reggie.
Hi, I'm Reggie Garcia with Triloco. We have 2 home bases, Louisville, Kentucky, and Indianapolis, Indiana. We have two leadership bases because of our rate of growth and how widespread we are. We fluctuate between 200 and 300 members, depending on the year, and very, very fast and competitive group.
Great. Okay, thank you guys so much again for being a part of this. We're pretty much this is pretty much the hotbed of triathlon clubs across the Tennessee, Kentucky market. So thanks for being a part of this. This is, there's no sugarcoating it. The times are rough in endurance sports right now. None of us are racing. I'm not making any money. It's a tough time, but what I want to open up for discussion here is during this challenging time for all of us, I'd love to hear if anybody is doing, or any club, I should say, is doing anything right now unique in these times. Because we're not able to get together like we once were, what are we all kind of doing to keep people engaged, to do things that are still promoting people getting out there and training and staying fit and whatnot, and kind of staying race ready, even though we have kind of unknown ahead of us of what's going on. And Reggie, I'll start with you because I saw your hand kind of pop up there. But let's just start with you and let's just go around and see what everybody's kind of doing in this time. And to be honest, if the answer is nothing, that's fine. I think that's fair if people are just kind of waiting it out. I'd love to hear that as well. But Reggie, go ahead.
I'm sure we're not the only club doing this or the only group, but Zwift racing, we will get anywhere from 6 to well over a dozen members spread over 3 or 4 states to come in and race do a Zwift race. And, it's amazing how fast some of these people have gotten locked indoors. So.
Yeah. And how is your club organizing those Zwift races? Is it somebody within the club that's putting those together?
We have actually 3 people who are really active on Facebook in the club to try to put these on and do the invites. And obviously you have some of the fastest and some of the slowest, and some of these faster. We have some national champions who have gotten beat by some of the last year were middle of the pack people because they focused on training indoors. So it's been kind of fun to watch.
That is cool. Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Spencer.
Yeah, we're in a similar situation. I think first and foremost, when the lockdown started happening in the Nashville area, a lot of people took the opportunity to reach out to, whether it be some of our sponsors, some of our partners, and get bike fits or take FTP tests. We're very fortunate at East Nashville. We have 2 stellar coaches in Conrad Goeringer and Derek Stone. So a lot of our athletes are covered by coaches and were directed by them throughout those first initial weeks. And then a lot of people immediately went to Zwift, and some people who hadn't already signed up, some people who were traditionally riding outside took it inside, both for convenience, both to follow protocol. But also I think, and really importantly, and I was actually very proud of this on behalf of our club, that a lot of people decided not to ride outside, because obviously if you do have an accident, if you do have a crash, you're only going to put additional strain on the resources, the frontline resources that are obviously doing great work right now in other areas. So those FTP rides then quickly those Zwift rides then became Zwift races, and that's really helped with just kind of the camaraderie and the community of the club.
That's cool. That's cool. Go ahead, Jamie.
We are doing the same thing in Cincinnati Triathlon. We actually have had a lot of new members and older members step up here recently. We've had a little bit of change in leadership this year. So not only are we facing this pandemic, we have a change in leadership. So we're really focusing on reaching out. Right now, we've been doing Zwift racing, but we've also been doing just training rides. I mean, just to get people out, we have organized rides 4 to 5 times a week. We have organized training runs virtually. We just requested we basically created an event. We have them post. They post their time. They post their distance. We have prizes we've been sending out from our sponsors. Our sponsors have been willing to give us like gift cards and things to give out to the club to keep them engaged. We have a drawing every week. We have incorporated the Ironman virtual races. So if you do Ironman virtual race plus you do the triathlon virtual race or training, you know, we ask them to post everything. We also have a lot of our members that are physical therapists. They have gotten on their specialized workouts. We have core workouts at noon, 5 days a week. We have we also have had our PTs that have been recording specific exercises to help, even though you can't get in a pool right now, which is frustrating for everybody, but help exercises with bands and really work on those specific muscles that we need to perform ideally. So we've really been trying to focus on having very specific workouts for those muscles that we need and specific training. You know, it's, what do they call it? Have that reason behind your training. So we want to make sure we keep everybody in shape as best we can. And like Triloco, we've seen a lot of people increase their speed between treadmill, and you're able to set that pace and really push yourself and do that speed workout. We've seen a lot of members really grow and really get faster. We're not really encouraging members to go out on those trails yet. We're asking people to be active, but be safe. And we have a lot of frontline workers in our clubs, so they're really stressing to stay away from the trails and outside where it's very packed, and to stay safe, you know, bike indoors. So you're not gonna put yourself at risk to get hurt and then take away from the frontline workers, as Spencer alluded to. So that's just a little bit about what we're doing. We're trying to even grow that even further right now. So I'll keep you, we'll see.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. Anyone else doing anything? Go ahead, Katie. I see your hand.
Sure. One of our members, like Jamie said, is she's a personal trainer. So she's been doing live online classes for our members. As well as we've done a lot of Zoom sessions to just we got together last weekend, just had a hangout time to just chill and, grab your drink, pop up in front of the laptop and just hang out with fellow members. We've done this with we're, in addition to the Ironman virtual races, we're trying to organize a club virtual try, specifically for us. We're really active on Facebook, giving everybody, the posting what you're doing, encouragement for anything that you're doing, the dry land workouts for swimming, the tubing, the specific training, just anything that you can be doing, just encouraging each other. And that's what's really helped us a lot, is just to stay positive and be looking for the bright side of things.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Michael.
Hey, yeah. So we haven't done a whole lot of virtual training, but we did have a member that actually is a yoga instructor, and she's been providing virtual yoga on her Facebook page, and she actually does it on her page. You can log into her page and you actually do the yoga with her. Her name's Brenda Michelle. If you guys want to check her out, she's really cool. It's called Yoga with Brenda, and she has a couple of sessions each week. She's terrific. But it kind of gives you a different kind of workout that you can kind of relax with and still get a good workout.
Very cool. Go ahead, Greg.
We're kind of doing the same thing, just group meetups on Zwift, and a couple of guys are doing races and on Zwift. And when we do run outside, we don't usually ride outside, but when we do run outside, it's usually one or two people at a time. no group runs like we used to do.
Yeah.
So pretty much all we're doing.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is every club, but in my experience in triathlon clubs is you have a very engaged group in the club, and then you've got a bunch of people that are just members that really don't do much, and there's a lot of reasons for that. But I think that those people that are just a member but don't really do much, I'm interested, has anybody had any experience in communicating with those people that are more of your peripheral members and aren't really the engaged people that you know are going to pretty much do whatever it is kind of your club is doing? Are they still engaged in the sport? Are they still engaged in your club? Do they still want to kind of be doing things, or have they kind of checked out at this point?
I think they probably checked out. I mean, there's always seems to be that group that aren't really doing much of anything, no matter what, volunteering or whatever else. So I think they pretty much remain the same. And just,
or maybe I can even rephrase the question, which is anybody doing anything to try to outreach towards that group to keep them engaged?
We send a lot of our members, I'd say probably a quarter of our members are not on Facebook. So we do biweekly emails. We do a lot of communication is by phone or text messaging. So we're constantly trying to outreach them. We've had a lot of members go to those, not using the social media platform, and that has been always a challenge, trying to engage them. But we are as Cincinnati Tri Club, one of our main focuses lately has been our mental health. And we've had a couple of clinics lately where we've had some of our people that are our therapists or counselors have sent, documentation, hey, even though we are trying to be active, we want to make sure you're mentally health and you're mentally really trying to cope and handle it. Because this has been a part of grieving. It's been a part of turning our worlds upside down. So we've had to change our routine. So between emails and engagement, personal text messaging, trying to really get those people to talk and engage to make sure they're doing okay.
And Heidi, I'll pose a question to you, just because Land Sharks, you're a big club. You've generally, you guys do a lot of social activities together, and that's really a big selling point for the Land Sharks in many ways. And has this been hard for you guys, being such a social club that organizes so many events and not being able to do that? How's that work for you guys?
Yeah, I would say absolutely. Yes, it has been difficult, and I appreciate the compliment that you paid the Land Sharks. Yeah, we tend to be social, and we as a board have decided that we are not going to organize formal events. So I know Cincinnati Tri Club, you mentioned using events, and we in the past have done the same thing. We are not discouraging our members from doing that, but we are not encouraging our board members or our leadership positions to proactively say, hey, we're going to go for a run at this date, this time. But we have done social distancing socials. So I know another member from Mid-Tennessee talked about doing a social event and just kind of turn on your laptop, grab a drink, and hang out. We did that as well, as we were leveraging one of our members who's a ref at USAT. So he walked us through some of the rules, regulations, and so that was insightful, educational, as well as socially good as well. We're trying to post fun pictures on Facebook and just encourage the dialogue. But again, it is very difficult. And as you mentioned, some of our members that are just truly members, I think they have checked out. And I do think it's very hard to engage them. But like the other members have mentioned, we are leveraging our members who have a special skill set. We're leaning on our sponsors. If one of our sponsors is providing us strength workouts that are pre-recorded. So they try to do more body weight exercises so we can follow along for those that don't have access to equipment. So we're trying to leverage those individuals within our club who are willing to volunteer. But, we're trying to adapt as best as we can.
Great. Okay, so for the sake of time, real quick, I'm going to shift gears a little bit away from member engagement, and I'm going to move on to racing. We don't know when. I wish I had an answer for you. I'm every single day trying to figure this out, and I don't know. But from Triathlon Clubs and your perspectives, I imagine everybody's itching and ready to go. But how confident are they once, let's just say, hypothetically, a race says in July, we're going to have a race. XYZ race is happening in July. What is your impression of how your members will react to that? Will they go race in July? What does that look like? Have you guys talked about that at all for confidence levels within your membership?
I foresee races filling up very quick on our end. A lot of our people live and breathe the short course race and, of course, the distance races, but mainly the short course throughout the whole year. They will fill it up.
So the COVID-19 unknowns have no effect to your members just ready to get back out there and jump right in it, no matter what provisions there are at races with regards to anything, social distancing, taking temperatures, all that kind of stuff.
I think I think most of our teammates think they're faster than the virus. They're getting a little bit cabin fever. So, and that's what the chatter's about.
Okay. Who else?
I think. I didn't chime in earlier, but we are also planning a virtual race. But I think our members, we have a split group. One, they're not going to put themselves at risk at a race, and then we have a group that's ready to go. So I think it's kind of split. There are some people who are honestly, I think, scared still about being in a group and wouldn't go race, but we still have it's about split half and half. But we do have a group that would jump out ready to race as well.
Okay, go ahead, Spencer.
Yeah, I agree. It's purely anecdotal. We haven't discussed this as a board, and we certainly haven't discussed this to our members at large through social or directly. But I think it was entirely up to the individual. And I think I can speak for some people that they definitely would race. They'd be very keen to race and get out there as quickly as possible. And then there are others, and I include myself in that feel like July is just way too soon. But I have a follow-up question, Joe, not to kind of detract from anyone else's answer, and perhaps we hold this, but there's obviously a lot more to a race. You know this better than anyone on the call here. There's a lot more to a race than just the participants. And there's also a lot more to the race than the organizers of the race. There's a lot of volunteers. There's a lot of, the police involved. So in your experience in the last few weeks, how are those conversations going? Does July feel too soon for the other people that you would need to lean on in order to host a race?
July. So we have one event in July, and that's actually mid-July. And breaking news, we will not be having that race here. That has not been officially publicly announced. That is a race that we don't own, but we produce the race on behalf of a tourism department in Kentucky. And that race was decided from the tourism department that they needed to push pause on that and kind of shift gears and go. The tourism departments are obviously feeling the effect of this more than a lot of people. And so they're doing it just on financial reasons, primarily. That it's a lot of work to put into that. But if it were my race, I would not cancel yet for July. We did cancel our June events for exactly that reason, Spencer. It's there's the unknown, and races are expensive, and they are. There's a lot of logistics that go into producing a race, and you rely on a bunch of different people to make a race successful. And you mentioned volunteers. That's a huge aspect of a race. And it's really difficult for me to expect 100 plus volunteers to say, I'm ready to go out there right now and get dripped on, sweat and sneezed on and snotted on and pull timing chips off ankles. Like, that's an unrealistic ask. And rather than getting to the point of, panicking last minute because we only have 14 volunteers signed up to do a race, we had to make that was a big part of the decision making. And I think a lot of people are starting to realize that that's a big component of deciding if a race can take place. And I can't even imagine what Ironman is doing with the amount of needs they have. But it's also registration. Putting a race on is, let's just say, River Bluff that we produce in August. We expect to have well over 600 people on a normal year that would have done that race this year. Right now, every single race company is getting 0 race registrations. Nobody's getting anything. So right now, races have no idea what to plan for. And there's a time period that you have to be able to make decisions on medals and shirts and entertainment and your medical needs and all that stuff based on how many people are coming. And if you don't know how many people are coming, it makes it very difficult to plan for. So a lot of these summer races are getting close to that point of having to really make some tough decisions based on just logistics, not even factoring in safety. And I think that's what a lot of people right now are thinking about. At least I'm thinking about.
Hey, Joe.
Sorry.
Yes.
Hey, this is Greg. Rachel's trying to jump on too from Memphis Thunder, so she just finished up her other meeting. So
Great. Okay. I see her. Yep. Thank you for letting me know.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So thank you for that question, Spencer. So next up on the racing front is, the question of comfort level or the comfort level of going back to race versus not. But it's also, if you are comfortable with going back to racing, are there if a race looks and feels different, meaning, you're used to going to a race, piling into a transition area, 6 or 7 bikes deep on a rack, standing in a mass of people at the start line and doing all that. If a race, and then also at the end of the race, you're all congregating in a small area, you're partying, there's beer, there's people hugging, all that stuff is what you're used to. And that's what makes races a race, in my opinion. That's a big part of it. If a race doesn't feel or look like that this year, meaning you have to limit your numbers because of the amount of space you have. If you can only fit certain amount of bikes on a bike rack to accommodate to social distancing requirements, if you can't have a post-race party because you can't have too many people congregating, if all of these different things start being implemented, which they will, they really will, what does that mean for you? Does that mean, do you think your members will still want to compete even though it doesn't look and feel like what they're used to, or does it matter to them?
It doesn't matter.
Hey, Joe. Yeah.
Okay. Michael?
I was going to say, I don't think it matters. I think the only thing that they may be apprehensive on or struggle with is how many registration spots will be available, in a race that they normally go to. Of course, in our club, most of our members race locally, and particularly, they would feel like they would want to know well ahead of time how many races they were actually going to be able to sign up for because of participant level. Would that change? That's the only thing. But they want to get out and race for sure. That's training or not. They want to get out and race.
Yeah, and I think that's the question on caps, on race caps. That's still unknown. It's we don't know, and I think it's kind of good that we're not getting any registration. Some race companies have just cut off registrations completely because of that unknown. Is when it comes back and they tell you, group sizes can only be 250 people. Well, that's hard. We've already reached that number on a lot of our races, and so a lot of people are just cutting it off completely because of that concern. Rachel, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Rachel Campbell's with the Memphis Thunder. Was originally planning on joining us, but had to come late. And thank you, Greg, for being a part of it as well.
Hey, Joe, just one other follow. Do you think you think you guys would move more to a lottery system too if you had to because of that, or?
Too early. Too early to know. I've not even gotten to that point, Michael, and I don't know. That's not really been tossed out there yet in communications that I've had, but it's a good thought.
I think a lot of our club members would probably they would be hesitant based on the bike rack closeness, based on the start line and finishing. They would be hesitant. I know we've got a lot of members ready to race, including myself. I'm ready to race, but I also know the safety. So July is an iffy time right now, but they're gonna weigh the pros and cons, and we'll probably have open those discussions up have open communication. Just have that, it's going to be a personal choice for everybody, but the more knowledge that they know and the more questions that we can try and answer, have somebody in contact to answer them, I think that's going to be key, is the open communication, open dialogue with everybody and everybody in our community, including all of the clubs on this call right now. I mean, when things are posted or knowledge is known, it's about putting it out there for everybody to know and encouraging the whole community. I mean, technically, we're all a community here, and we're out for everybody's health and well-being, and that we don't want to see each other get sick or hurt because of racing, but we also want to support each other.
Spencer, I saw your hand raised. You had a comment?
I definitely know that there's team members out there right now who are trying to get KOMs on Strava and are racing each other, doing segment races on Strava. So they're definitely ready to go. I think from a race director or from just the race event itself's perspective, because we haven't responded as a country with a collective response to this, I think the challenges are increased. How would you cap, like, regionally? So some areas are obviously responding very differently continually, whether it's when they lock down or when they're starting to reopen. I think that would give some of our members a lot of pause as to where other competitors were coming from. Hotspots are going to continue to appear. We're in April now. Massachusetts is considered a hotspot yesterday. I mean, I can't imagine people from Massachusetts coming down for big races, but there are people that will travel. People have gone away for college, etc. They will come back. They will travel back to their home states and their hometowns to take part in races. And they could be coming from places that obviously this virus doesn't understand state borders. So how do you think race directors could kind of best protect us in that respect?
You put me on the spot, Spencer. That's a tough one.
I didn't mean to. But I do think, just in terms of, sure, maybe it's not an answer for you, but it's certainly something that we would encourage our members to think of. You don't know where other people are coming from. This isn't, the basis of this call for the first half, at least, was about how are we responding and how are we working together as a club. But when you open your club and your members up to all the other clubs and all the other participants in a particular race, that becomes really challenging. And obviously, like I say, different states and different cities are responding differently. We'd like to think that people would be coming from elsewhere to take part in our races, especially if your races were some of the first in the area to start taking place. Because that's going to be another big thing, right? Who is going to hold their hand up and say, we're going to have a race? Who's going to be the first one? And that could be true of any event, whether it's a music event, whether it's theatre, any kind of live in-person event. Someone's got to raise the flag and say, I'm going to go first. And there's going to be some pushback, and there's going to be a lot of encouragement.
Yeah, I think it's also dependent on, we'll probably start seeing races in certain areas pop up before races in other areas. And it's probably more so political than anything else. So we live in the Southeast. We're already starting to see they're starting to open things back up. And other places are still in lockdown mode. So I think that's a big part of it too. It's just the politics. And this is also, I think politics plays a huge role in all this, because this is an election year. It's the big election year. And I don't think the heated discussions in politics is going to die down anytime soon. So that's always going to play a factor in what we're all going to be experiencing between now and November. And that's going to play a role in what happens with our events moving forward. So Anybody else have any thoughts or comments on that?
Yeah. It's going to be weird not to ever shake somebody's hand again.
It's very weird not shaking hands. That might become the new normal, to be honest.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Everything's changed. So when I say we want to race, yeah, but it's also going to be based on all the safety measures and stuff. And it may be okay for some, it may not be okay for some, but all the different things that you do to change the nature and the dynamics of the race and what goes into it, it's still up in the air.
With regards to your group training, once you guys get back out to group rides, group runs, whatever, do you anticipate that changing and the way that looks like?
Yes, because even though we're very competitive, it doesn't mean that we're out there riding in packs. I mean, there is no more than 2 people together from what I've seen. I've seen 3, but I've also seen them on the road, and they're pretty far apart. As far as running, I haven't seen any more than 2 people together. I try to run alone or with my girlfriend. That's about it. So it's just kind of.
And
everything's changed, and people, no matter how competitive they are, most of them are going to try to be safe. There are some people who don't care, but most of our people, they worry. But again, they also have hope, so they believe that things will move a little bit closer toward how it used to be. I'm sure it's not going to get quite all the way, but
yeah. And Emmy, I'll pose this to you because I know there's been in Beat, there was some a lot of vocal pushback to people that were doing group events.
Yeah.
Still,
we're just going to go by what the recommends. So then I'm backed by. We were getting some pushback from group rides. People were. Before it was the safer at home order. And when they decided to change it to stay at home, we decided not to back the group rides as a club. There are people still do support groups of 10 or less, and then also respect social distancing. I mean, but really just kind of going with what the governor is recommending is what we were kind of going by. But yeah, we do have some members that are really anti, and for good reason. I mean, I have severe asthma. I definitely don't. So I'm not choosing to go ride or run with anyone, but we do have some people there supporting it as a club as far as standpoint at this time.
Okay. All right. So we are up against where I wanted to have a cutoff time. I'm going to ask one more question. Let's just see what kind of response I get from this. But it's a selfish question. It's one of, once we start putting events on, I'm interested in your feedback on this. Because of some of those issues that we brought up earlier with regards to the unknowns of people aren't signing up, and if you have an event and you don't know who's showing up, it makes it difficult to plan for all of the deliverables that go into an event. What I think you might start seeing, and I don't yet know what my view on this is, but I think you're going to start seeing a whole lot of trimmed down events, meaning no t-shirts, no medals, no aid stations, none of that kind of stuff. And what is your opinion on that? If you race a race and you spend $80, $90 on a race, are you okay this year with not getting your finisher medal or not, having to carry your own nutrition on the course? But these are hypothetical things, but I think you're going to start seeing, especially from smaller companies, you're going to start seeing a whole lot more of that kind of stuff. Reggie, I see your hand up.
As long as the expectations are managed. I mean, a lot of these people train great and far distances, especially for the Ironman or even further, and they're used to having their own. So it's possible. I mean, it's the newer triathletes who are inexperienced, who may not, but to manage expectations would definitely buffer that. And so I don't think it'd be a major issue as long as expectations are, are set.
That's a good point about kind of the newer racers. They're the ones that I think would have a harder time with trimmed down events. But I think you're right, like communicating things well in advance and just setting expectations could resolve that. Rachel, I'm going to open it up to you since you're new here to this call, not new to your club, obviously, but you've been very influential in the Memphis community. Would love kind of your take on this whole situation.
Well, I think we have a mix, probably similar to the rest of the clubs, where we have some people that even if the safer at home order in Tennessee is being lifted, they're not leaving. And then others who are going out on their own or in very small groups of 2 or 3 people. Yeah, there's tons of bikers. Our bike shops here are just slammed, But to address your question about trimmed down events, again, just to reiterate what you said about communication, if that's really made clear up front, because race directors are going to have a hard time surviving and continuing to have to pay what they've been paying for police support and all the permits, et cetera, et cetera. They're going to have to cut somehow if they don't have enough registrations, right? I mean, that's the reality. So the more communication there is, the better. And I think in terms of our club, we're doing what we can to just stay in contact with each other through our closed Facebook group. That has been a good way for us to just keep up some camaraderie. The side relationships people have made over the years are ongoing and continue. But it's a very strange time, definitely, for all of us.
Mm-hmm. It really is. It really is. Any closing comments from anybody? Any final points anybody wishes to make before we wrap this up?
I want to say in reference to that, if you just want a medal, you can always do a virtual race and get all the medals you want. And I know our members, they want to race. They want to get out there. They want to run the races. And I think, like it's been said, if the expectations are set up front, they'd be fine without. I have a drawer full of T-shirts and, a ton of medals, and I want to race. So I'd be okay with it. And I think most of my club would be okay with it. They just want the races back.
Okay.
And I have a question, Joe, being a race director yourself, do you have information about just transference in the water, not pool water? I know that has been found to be safe to be in a pool in terms of COVID, can't exist in pool water, but what about lake water or temperatures, or is there communication or information that we can share about that?
There has not been any communication that's come down from USA Triathlon or anybody that I'm aware of on transference through open water swimming. It's a good question, though, and one I'll follow up on, but I've not seen or heard any chatter on that. I know that you can get a lot of that kind of chatter, right or wrong, on social media. Has anybody seen anything that they've, fake news or not? Has anybody heard anything?
No.
Okay. Good question, though. I'll look into it, Rachel, and see what I can come up with.
Because I wonder if, because on the bike and on the run, you can stay further away from people if you choose to, just depending on how competitive you feel like being, right? Yeah. But the swim, you really can't avoid, contact, exchange, et cetera. So I'd be curious to see if we're going to have more duathlons available, or, if there's any shift in thinking for that.
Yeah. There's last point, and then we'll wrap it up. There's a working group within USA Triathlon that is starting the process of developing kind of a rollout of what recommendations for how races need to be set up should events get the green light to be 250 people or less, or 500 people or less, or whatever those look like. And they're starting to work on those. And I can't break any news on that yet because it's still very early in that process, but I can tell you that I am a part of a group that looks at that and offers feedback. And what it looks like is not what any race director wants to do. It makes it near impossible to actually produce a race and not lose your you-know-what over. It spreads a race out over a long period of time, and you're devoting police and medical resources to an unrealistic time frame. It's a lot of time trial starts, but then you're also like having to clear transition areas before the next wave starts. It's wild. But we're working through all this, and that was part of my comment earlier on just expectations of what a race is and should be versus what the reality might turn into. And if everybody's kind of cool with that, it's going to be interesting to see what that looks like. And I'm figuring this out as we all are. So we will be very transparent on all of this as we know. Right now, I just don't know. I don't know. But anyways, thank you guys so much. Was this valuable? I mean, having like a round table type of a session between clubs, is this good? Maybe this is something moving forward that we can try to do periodically that's not, broadcast to the world, but just a closed session. So, okay. To the public that's been watching this, thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it. Check out one of these amazing tri clubs if they're in your area. I'm happy to connect you to them if there's one in particular you'd like connections to. And to everybody that's that's a part of this meeting, thank you guys. And we will see you on the race course soon.
Thank you.